If I had just ignored that heavy, bad feeling in my stomach on that Saturday morning, my marriage might have lasted just a little while longer. But I didn't ignore it. I woke up while the sun was still hidden, and the house was very quiet. Instead of staying under the warm covers, I got out of bed very early. I moved quietly so I wouldn't make the floorboards creak. I packed a small bag for the night with a change of clothes and headed to the local bakery in town. I bought my wife's absolute favorite blueberry muffins. These are the special ones with big sugar crystals on top and lots of real fruit inside. They're the ones she loves so much from the shop she visits every single week. I stood in that bakery for 10 minutes, just waiting for them to come out of the hot oven. The sweet smell of sugar and warm berries filled the air, and I knew these would make her morning so much brighter. I even got the extra large coffee she likes, making sure it had just the right amount of cream and 2 sugars. My plan was simple and sweet. I wanted to surprise her at the small fishing cabin by the lake. She was there spending the weekend with a few of her close friends to get some rest. Emily, my wife of 15 years, had really wanted me to stay home this time. She told me it was just going to be a girls-only trip, and because I love her and trust her, I told her that was fine. But after being together for 15 long years, I found that I missed her much more than I thought I would. I kept picturing her beautiful face when I showed up with hot coffee and breakfast. I thought it would be the perfect surprise for the woman I love. The drive was very long, taking 4 hours, but I didn't mind the time spent on the road. I listened to some old songs we used to dance to when we were first dating. The sun was shining through the green trees, and the world felt peaceful. I kept thinking about how lucky I was to have a woman like Emily by my side for all these years. We had been through so much together, the good times and the hard times, and I wanted to show her that I still cared just as much as I did on our very first day together. As my truck turned onto the narrow, bumpy gravel road that leads down to the cabin, I noticed something that felt very strange and out of place. There were way more cars and big trucks parked in the grass than Emily had ever mentioned. I felt a little prickle of worry in my chest, but I shook it off. I stepped out of my truck, put a big smile on my face, and started walking toward the blue water. But then I stopped dead in my tracks. For the next 10 minutes, I felt like I couldn't move my legs at all. I couldn't even find the words to speak. I almost forgot how to breathe. I hid behind a row of tall pine trees where I could see everything happening on the wooden dock, but no one could see me. Emily wasn't holding a fishing rod like she said she would be. Instead, she was standing right next to a man I had never seen before in my life. She was laughing so hard that she had to stop and wipe happy tears away from her eyes. Then, this stranger reached out and put his arm around her shoulders. My heart sank because she didn't pull away. She just stayed there, leaning into him like they were very close. He was wearing a blue shirt and had a very friendly smile, which made me feel even worse. Why was he there? Why was he touching my wife's shoulder like they had known each other forever? I felt a cold chill run down my back, even though it was a warm day. I wanted to scream, but my voice was stuck in my throat. A group of people standing nearby started cheering and clapping, and someone even started taking pictures with a big camera. My stomach felt like it was tied in 100 painful knots. This was not the quiet weekend with her girlfriends that she told me about. There were about 20 people there, and at least half of them were men I didn't know at all. Every excuse she gave me before she left started playing back in my head like a bad movie. She told me not to call too much because the phone signal was bad at the lake. She told me they would be out on the water all day long. She said she'd text when she could. None of it was true. Then I noticed something even more confusing. Everyone kept looking back at the wooden cabin door, as if they were waiting for a very special guest to arrive. I wanted to run out there and yell, but a part of me told me to wait. I've learned that sometimes you only see half the truth if you rush in too fast. I quietly crept around the side of the building until I found an open window. I could hear people talking inside. A woman's voice asked, "Is he here yet?" And someone else answered, "Not yet." Then I heard that strange man laugh again. He said, "Just relax. If everything goes the way we planned, he will never suspect a single thing." My chest felt so tight I could hardly move. They were talking about someone, and I knew deep down they were talking about me. Right then, my phone shook in my pocket. It was a text from Emily. It said, Good morning, honey. We just caught our first fish. I really wish you were here. I looked at that message while standing just 50 feet away from her. I felt sick. If she could lie to me that easily, what else was she hiding? Suddenly, the front door opened. An older man walked out holding an old, weathered wooden box. Everyone went quiet. Emily walked up to him and took the box. She looked like she was about to cry. The man put a hand on her shoulder and said, "Your husband deserves to know the truth today." I knew I had to see what was in that box. I moved closer, tried to be as quiet as a mouse. Emily whispered, "I just hope he can forgive me for keeping this a secret." The old man smiled a little bit and told her that sometimes love means staying quiet until the time is right. I almost walked back to my truck and left. I didn't know if I could handle whatever was about to happen, but I couldn't move. I stayed hidden and watched as she opened the lid. I expected to see something bad, like money or secrets from a secret life, but instead, the box was full of old, faded pictures. There were military patches, old letters, and a neatly folded American flag. The patches were from a uniform, the ones I used to touch when I was a little boy. They were scratchy and smelled like old dust. There were letters a father had written to a mother, and even some drawings I'd made when I was in kindergarten. It was like seeing my whole childhood packed into a single wooden container. Then, Emily pulled out a photo of my father. My dad died when I was only 17, and I hadn't seen that specific picture in 20 years. My heart stopped. The older man said he would have been so proud of Jake. Emily nodded and cried. She said, "That's why I couldn't tell him. If he knew how much money I was spending on this, he would have tried to stop me." I was so confused. My dad died way before I ever met Emily. How did she find these people? And why were they all here at this cabin? I couldn't stay hidden anymore. I walked up onto the porch. Everyone stopped talking. Emily turned around, and her face went totally white. "Jake," she whispered, and she started crying for real. The older man walked up to me and shook my hand firmly. He told me his name was Robert Hayes and that he had served in the Marines with my father many years ago. He took me inside and showed me a big drawing on the table. It was a plan for a piece of land by the lake that I never even knew existed. Emily explained everything to me. She told me that my father had bought that land 30 years ago. He wanted to build a place where soldiers could go to rest and feel better, but he died before he could start the work. She had spent the last 8 months secretly calling people and raising money to finish my dad's dream. She wanted it to be a surprise for my 40th birthday. Everything suddenly made sense. All the weird phone calls. The weekend she said she was busy, and the money that seemed to go missing, it wasn't because of another man. She was working with soldiers and people who designed buildings to honor my father's memory. She told me she kept it a secret because she knew I would have insisted on paying for it myself instead of letting other people help. Robert then gave me an envelope. It was a letter from my father that had been lost in an old box for years. I opened it with shaking hands. The last part of the letter said that real wealth isn't about what you keep for yourself, but what you leave behind to help other people. 3 months later, we all gathered at that same spot by the lake. We opened a place called Carter's Landing. It's a beautiful place where people who used to be in the Army and their families can come to fish, relax, and be together. The retreat was more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. There were small wooden cabins, a long dock for fishing, and a big fire pit where people could sit and talk. The sign at the front was made of heavy oak wood, with a name carved into it in big, bold letters. It looked strong and welcoming, just like my father was. I told Emily how sorry I was for thinking the worst of her. She told me she was sorry that her secret made me lose my trust in her. We both learned that even when a secret is meant to be a happy surprise, it can still cause pain if there isn't honesty between two people who love each other. As the sun went down over the water, I felt like my dad was there with us, smiling. I drove for hours thinking my world was ending, but instead, my wife gave me the greatest gift I have ever received. She gave me a way to finish my father's dream. That trip didn't break our marriage. It reminded me exactly why I had fallen in love with Emily in the first place. I realized that true love is about caring for someone's heart and their history. We stood there together, watching the waves, knowing that some secrets are built from kindness, even if they are hard to keep. My wife is wonderful, and I am the luckiest man alive. We walked toward the water, and for the first time, I felt like everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. The love we share is deeper than any secret, and I will always be grateful for her heart. I looked at her and knew that we would be okay. We would build more memories here, helping people find peace. My dad's dream was alive, and my marriage was stronger than it had ever been. We watched the stars come out, feeling the cool night air. The bakery muffins were long gone, but the sweetness of the day remained in our hearts. I held her hand tight, never wanted to let go. This place, this moment, and this woman were everything I ever needed. We stood on the dock where I had once felt so much fear, and now it was filled with so much love. It was the start of a new chapter for us both, one built on the legacy of a good man and the love of a good woman. I will never forget that Saturday morning, the day my fear turned into the most beautiful truth I have ever known.